Welcome to Redtastic. Story 1. Hey all, I'm feeling incredibly upset and could use some advice. To give some context, I'm getting married soon to my wonderful fiancé, 30 male. But the journey so far has been filled with a lot of stress, mainly caused by my future mother-in-law. She's been crossing boundaries during the entire wedding planning process. For example, she tried to change our venue from a modern outdoor garden to a church. She insisted we use her choice of caterers, even though my fiancé and I already paid a deposit for our own selection. She's constantly trying to adjust the guest list by adding distant relatives we've never even met. The most recent issue is breaking me. I went wedding dress shopping a week ago and found the gown. It is sleeveless with a low back and a V neckline. I love it. It's elegant and makes me feel beautiful. But my mother-in-law was furious and tried hard to discourage me from buying it. She's very traditional and said it was too exposed and embarrassing. She wanted me to wear something fully covered, which doesn't align with my taste or the theme of our wedding. My mom stood up for me and I thought the issue was settled, or at least temporarily put to rest. But then yesterday happened. My mother-in-law used a spare key she had. We didn't even realize she still had it, to enter our home while we were out. She borrowed my wedding dress without informing us. I came home to find it missing and went full into panic mode. We checked our home's security cameras and sure enough, it was her. When my fiancé called her, she admitted to taking the dress, saying she was getting it altered to make it more appropriate. She said my choice was humiliating and embarrassing, and that she was saving me from a mistake. My fiancé was furious and demanded she return it immediately, but she said she only had good intentions. Right now, the dress is still with her and I'm devastated. I've been crying non-stop. My family is beyond angry, and my mom wants to drive over there to get the dress back. To make matters worse, my sister-in-law is blaming me, saying I'm the one who created all this mess by wanting to put everything on show and not considering their family values. I feel stuck and powerless. I love my fiancé and know he's on my side, but this is tearing me apart. How do I handle this situation without causing irreparable damage before the wedding? Edit. My dress is just your average wedding dress. Nothing is on the show. Update. After a lot of discussion with my fiancé, we decided to issue a final warning to his mom. If she didn't return my dress, immediately we would involve the police. A day later, mother-in-law showed up at our door with the dress, partially altered. She had added sleeves, raised the neckline, and adjusted the back to make it more covered. I was heartbroken. I couldn't believe anybody would be that crazy. She was crying hysterically and causing a loud scene at our door, saying she was only trying to protect the family's honor. It was a complete meltdown, and my fiancé was in disbelief. The entire situation has traumatized my fiancé. He's always been close to his mom, but this crossed so many lines that he's struggling to process it all. He immediately told her that she and my sister-in-law are no longer invited to the wedding, along with anyone siding with them. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law have been blowing up his phone, and it's been daily fights ever since. However, he's starting to understand the pattern of behavior from his mom. His eldest sister went no contact with their mother 5 years ago. He and the other sister-in-law, the one who blamed me in the past, always thought she was being dramatic and put the blame on her. But now he's starting to see maybe his sister had a point. As for me, I'm still in shock. I'm trying to decide if I should just find another dress, as I don't even know if this one can be restored to its original state. It's just a lot to process. Thank you again for your kindness and support. I'm sorry about your wedding dress, OP. Your soon-to-be mother-in-law is an a-hole for taking the dress without your permission and altering it. She basically ruined the dress and I don't think it can be reverted back to its original state. She deserves to be removed from the wedding. I'm really glad your fiancé took your side in all of this. This would have been overwhelming if it was just you trying to deal with this woman. I hope you're able to fix the dress, and I hope the rest of your wedding goes without any more issues. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for complaining my sister had called her child the same name as mine? I have been married for 2 years and my husband had made it perfectly clear for several years that he doesn't want kids, but I did. Eventually we agreed that we would have one and one only. My mother had trouble conceiving, and I was concerned that I might too. After a year of no success, I was getting worried. We had booked a holiday, and on the day of the flight, I received a call saying that my grandfather had died. I wrestled with whether to cancel the holiday, but my family assured me that my grandfather would not have wanted me to do that, to attend his funeral. My husband also tried to comfort me and said that we would call the baby after my grandfather. He had a name that worked for both genders. We enjoyed our holiday and, as it happened, successfully made a baby whilst we were away. A daughter was born and we named her after my grandfather. Fast forward 10 years, when my sister got pregnant and announced she was naming her baby boy after our grandfather. The rest of the family cannot understand why I am so upset that she's naming her baby essentially the same as mine. OP, just like the rest of your family, I also don't understand why this bothers you. Why are you so upset that your sister is naming her son after the same name you named your daughter after? He's your grandfather. He means a lot to both of you. I don't think you have the right to say you're the only one who can use his name. You're going to be a very big a-hole if you continue to make all of this about you instead of being happy for your sister and a newborn child. Now for some comments. You're the a-hole. Hate to call you an a-hole for this, but you're definitely not in the right. You have no ownership over any name, but especially not the name of a relative, who another relative wants to honor. You absolutely don't get to claim someone else's name as yours, just because you happened to procreate first. I come from a huge family where, by tradition, children are named after their grandparents. As a result, so many cousins have the same name. It's actually pretty funny, especially when older relatives would have to ask, "Which Tony are you?" You're the a-hole. This is common in my family. My dad has 3 siblings that have a different father than him, and his other ones. Their dad passed away. My oldest uncle is named after him. He named his son that as well. My other uncle named his son that too, in honor of his father. My grandmother also named another one of my uncles after her brother, who had a son named after him, and then there's another kid in the family with that name, named after my great-uncle. It's just how namesakes work. You don't own the name. She has every right to want to honor your grandfather too. It would be difficult if it was some random name, but it's a family name. You don't get to tell her not to do it. You're the a-hole because you don't own the right to honor your grandfather. My sister-in-law used my husband and my father-in-law's middle name for her daughter. At first, I felt bothered because we were going through medical things and didn't know if children were in our future, and I felt like she took away the option for me to name my kiddo with that name after these 2 men that I love. But then I realized I'm not the only person that is allowed to love them. My husband thinks it's cute his niece has the same name as his middle name, and my father-in-law also thought it was sweet. Who am I to take that away? And if we do decide we want children, I will still use the name anyway. You don't get to exclude someone for liking something because you do. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for calling out my husband for misleading people about his job? My husband of 11 years recently got a certificate to be a medical technician and found a job in a hospital downtown. I'm really happy for him. He's making way more money than he was at his previous job as a bartender and seems to enjoy it much more. Only thing is, lately my husband has been saying to people he doesn't know that he just works at the hospital or works in medicine, which really annoys me when he says that people make the assumption that he's a doctor, which he isn't. My brother is a doctor, and it's a completely different job that required 12 years of education. I respect husband's profession, but I think he's deliberately misleading people. I work as a teller at a bank, and I would never tell people that I'm an investment banker. Last night, it came to a head. The husband was picking me up from my yoga class and briefly chatted with me and my friend G. Husband says he works at the hospital, and G's like, "Whoa, are you a doctor?" And he's like, "Kind of, yeah." I interrupt and say, "No, he isn't. He's just a med tech." Things get really awkward, and later in the car, the burglar is all, "You embarrassed me back there," and starts yelling at me about not respecting him and what he does. We haven't spoken since, Reddit. Am I the a-hole or his husband? Edit. Okay, Reddit, I get it. I'm the a-hole. I sent a text apologizing to my husband. Now for some comments. You are the a-hole. You literally said he's just a med tech, which is extremely insulting. Let him say whatever he wants about his job. He's proud of what he does, and he damn well should be. And by you having to distinguish the amount of schooling needed to be a med tech versus a doctor means you truly think schooling is what makes someone smart. Newsflash, many doctors aren't as smart as the nurses that work under them. A piece of paper doesn't define your knowledge. You are the a-hole. I have a few friends who are doctors. You know what they say when someone asks them what they do? They say, "I am a doctor," because anyone who's worked 12 long years for it likes to say it. Unless they are saying, "I am a neurosurgeon" or some other specialty. Your husband is not misleading anyone. No one assumes he's a doctor, and you can be in medicine without being a doctor. X-ray tech, lab tech, etc. You seem to have zero respect for your husband. Lucky for you, he's only not speaking. I would have packed my bags. You are the a-hole. He is kinda a doctor. There's a fair amount of overlap, and he does work in a hospital. As long as he doesn't straight up say, "I'm a doctor" or something like that, it's fine. Just because he doesn't have the fancy degree doesn't make him any less important to the process. More important, the way you reacted is petty at best and ridiculous and cruel at worst. You aren't even a doctor. Why are you so offended? All you are doing is trivializing something he's proud of and worked hard for. Why? What possible reason do you have?